Hey there, I'm Lisa and Mel for Beaducation.com.
And I'm Mel McCabe with Beaducation.com.
We just shot this great class over on Facebook Live, our Beaducation Live show, but we've edited it and archived it here for you to watch.
If you hear us answering customer questions or talking to customers, you can just ignore that. That was just stuff that was in the moment when we shot the class, but there's still so much great content here.
Yeah, but if you have questions while you're watching this archive, go ahead and leave a comment below if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're watching through our site, just toss us an email at classes@beaducation.com.
And we'll get back to you with an answer.
Yeah, let's get into the video.
Welcome to Beaducation Live on Facebook Live, and we are going to be showing you today radials. We have Lisa and Kelly and me, Mel McCabe, and we're going to show you some polishing.
Yeah, so radials are these 3M little bristle brushes that come in different grits, very similar to sandpaper, but they're great because they're flexible. You use them on a rotating drill. We're going to use a Fordham flex shaft, but you can use a Dremel if you have it. You can use anything that has a rotating, even a drill, but that's a little uncomfortable because it's this big thing and it's hard to hold it.
What about like a bead reamer?
Yeah, a bead reamer or anything like that that can hold a 3/32 shank bit will work perfect, and as long as it rotates. So for hardcore polishing and drilling, yes, you need the power of a Fordham flex shaft or the other flex shaft that we sell on site. But for this, we're really just doing some light polishing. So something like a Dremel tool is great. And that's probably something that you have at home, one of the small handheld drills, which you can also pick up like at Home Depot or something like that. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
You can also use it to sand off bunions.
Yes, you can use it to sand off bunions with a different bit, not with your expensive
Not with the radials.
So we've got a class online with Joe Silvera. Hi, Joe, the amazing Joe Silvera. And it's all about polishing with a bunch of different bits, including the radials. So I'm going to show you my screen real quick and just show you how to get to that class. Let's see, here is our home page. You hover over Learn and go to free online classes, metalwork, and then we have all these fun things, and scroll down and you will find polishing with power tools. And this talks about the radials exactly like we're going to use here. It talks about the silicone wheels and a couple other different bits from the very smart and talented Joe Silvera. So I just wanted to show you guys how to use that, how to find it on the site to get more information on these bits, because we're just going to do a quick little introduction. So safety is kind of important. So before working with any sort of rotary tool like this, I'm going to pull my hair back with my hair tie. I'm going to put on my safety goggles. Now the good thing about these radial wheels is they are basically, there's no dust that comes off. So you don't have to worry about inhaling weird stuff or, things flying, but you never know. If something were to break off or something to go wrong, you want to protect your eyes. So I'm going to put these on. Okay, let me talk you through what we're looking at here. Let me go in a little bit closer. So these are the radials. They come, this is a kit that we sell, or you can buy them individually. We sell them in packs of 3, and you stack them on a screw mandrel. This is a 3/32 shank screw mandrel.
You stack all 3?
Yes.
Okay.
And you can stack more. Oftentimes I stack more, like 6. I think this one's 4 or 5.
Is there a rule to how many you would, you would?
You'll get more coverage with more of them.
Okay.
Or the job will get done faster because there's more grit and pieces going on in there. But 3 is usually what most people use. That's what I use on most stuff. But on the really gritty stuff, like these big ones, I'll talk about the grits in a minute, but the really harsh ones, if I'm covering a big area, I'll just throw a couple more on there. So they're right on here. I'll show you how to load them. And you want to make sure they're all going in the same direction. This is a used one, but it still works. You see how it's a little nastier looking than this green has been loaded on recently. So you want to make sure that the bristles are pointing to the right, so that when your rotary tool turns it, they're going like this and not bristles first, because then they'll just thrash. See how that is? You want them to smoothly go like that. Does that make sense?
Yes, definitely. Interesting.
So this, let me walk you through the different grits. The yellow is an 80 grit, so that's equivalent to an 80 grit sandpaper. The white is 120 grit. The red, which I have up here, which I'm going to demonstrate how to load the mandrel, is 220. The blue is 400. So we're getting finer here. The bigger the number, the finer the grit. Now we bump over to pink, which is this guy, which is about, I think it's equivalent to about a pumice. And then the peach is 6 microns. We've bumped up to microns now because this is pretty fine. And then, of course, the microns work the other way. The larger the number, the less fine it is. Makes sense? It's so weird how all the gauges go one way, microns go the other. And then green is the finest, and that's 1 micron. So that'll be your final one that you'll polish with. I use these in a couple different applications. Occasionally when I'm feeling lazy and I know that I want a little bit of texture on here, I will use the blue one after I add black to a stamped piece. And it'll work like an eraser. It'll totally take it off. The same thing as using, steel wool or a pro polish pad. But in this case, it's also adding texture at the same time. So I like that. I love the texture of the blue. So I'm texturing and removing the dark from the top areas, leaving it in the recessed. You'll see how well it works in one step. Now, if I wanted to use radials to take the black off in texture, but then bring it back to a pretty high finish, I would have to go through the steps from blue. So I'd then move to pink, then I'd move to peach, and then I'd move to final green, and then I'd give it a couple swipes with the good old Pro Polish pad. So I'm going to load up the little screw here, and I'm looking down at the pins, so I'm going to load it the same direction as they are as if I was looking down this way, right? So in this case, I want them going to the left.
To the left, to the left.
Everything in the box to the left. We just do this all day. We sing. There
Well,
we
that's
go.
a good way to always remember how to load it.
Yes, if you're looking down at it right like this, right?
Yeah.
Which there really is no other way. You can't load it on here. There's
Yeah.
nothing on there yet.
You and Beyonce.
So just imagine Mel singing Beyonce to remember to the left.
To the left.
Just test, look up here, they're all going to the right. Now I loaded one of these yesterday, and they were, one in the middle was off, and you can really tell, so make sure everybody's flowing together. And then you just put it on the little guy, and screw it on nice and tight. If they're on really tight, or you need to tighten it, you can't do it with your hand. Use a little screwdriver. I actually use some crappy pliers to hold it, and get the screwdriver in there and give it a little, because you really don't want those coming undone. Make sense on loading them? Mm-hmm. Good, good. Okay, so let me show you sort of how they work. I'm going to put one, I'll just put a medium grit one. This is my flex shaft. And I'll put the blue in. Tighten it with the chuck key, nice and tight. Now on my flex shaft, I've got a cord that runs up to the motor that's on my right, and the foot pedal's down on my foot. So you want to watch and make sure, I'm going to go really slowly so you can see that they are going in the right direction. I don't know if you guys can see that. Let's go up here. See how they're going? They're not going the other way. If you forgot and you have your flex shaft left on reverse, they're going to go the other way. So just do a little test before you get going. So let's use the example of this first. Now, I like to hold my flex shaft. I usually have a bench pin and I'm working like this. I'm bracing my hand down just like Joe taught me. But let me show you how this one kind of works like an eraser. I'm going to go really slow first so you can kind of see. But I wouldn't usually go that slow. And let me get a little zoom action in on this.
If you had loaded them incorrectly and you'd hit the metal with that, is that like irreparable damage or?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I actually don't know. I don't think so. I think you'd know really fast.
Okay.
So I like to go pretty fast, like about like this. Slow with my hand, but fast with the motor.
Wow.
Does that make sense? So this blue is pretty harsh, so it acts a little bit just like an eraser.
I love that.
Now this is getting, I'm gonna hang this back up. This is getting warm, so if you're gonna do more than that for a small piece, it's hard to hold on to, grab what's called a ring clamp and hold the piece within the ring clamp. I'm gonna put the wedge here, nice and tight. Now it's held and you won't hurt your hand, burn your hand, right? Mm-hmm. Just make sure it's in there really tight. So you can see it pretty quick, but this is with the blue. Now see, because the way it's turning, if I go off the edge, it kind of flings off. That's not a big deal. That's just why you want to get used to pulling down, because otherwise it goes wink, wink, and when you pull down, it won't do that. That's because of the direction of the bristles. Just be more careful than I am right now.
Now, if you polish the edges too, does it kind of soften the edges at all?
No, I don't think it does that much work, but that's
Okay.
that's a good question. Something way harsher would. Mm-hmm. All right, so
Wow.
that is just with that. Now it's got a little texture on it. I always, like I said, hit it with the Pro Polish pad. You can go in straight lines like I did, like I was going like this, ring, 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 sound effects, or small circles if you want a different look, or, you know, cross hash. It's up to you. The work will get done. It's just how, if you're leaving a texture, it's how you want the texture to look. Mm-hmm. So you can't really tell on camera, but this has a little bit of texture to it, but I actually like it. That's why I like the blue and the pink and the peach. They kind of all do the same depending on, I use Sharpie on here, so it removes it really well. Now, if you put on the enamel paint and let it dry forever, you're gonna have to use a harsh one to get it off. If you wipe it off while it's wet and then remove it with these when it's a little bit dry, it'll be better. But with the enamel, I don't wanna remove a ton of it with these and then gunk up the bristles. All right, so let me pull this guy out. And I wanna show you this ring.
Oh, I have a question.
Here's a question, hang on, give it to me, Claudia.
If you don't have a ring mandrel, will a jewelry plier work okay?
For holding it.
Yes, but I wouldn't hold it with like a plier, any sort of metal plier like this, because you'll mar your plier. If you're gonna do that, like maybe do something like this. You know, fold something cushiony over and hold it with that. Of course, you would want less than that. Because if I go in and just hold it with my plier, I'm likely gonna mar it up. Or a nylon jaw plier would work great.
That's good.
Yeah. What's
You
that?
don't want to mar up the blank, right? Not the plier? 'Cause
Right.
The blank,
No,
yeah.
the plier will be fine.
Okay.
It's the blank we're worried about. Okay, so this ring I want to show, let me see if I can get a little bit closer. Whoa, that was a lot a bit closer.
Oh, Trish had said she uses a piece of leather also to hold it when it gets hot. That's good.
Yeah, and that you can just, you know, pinch in your hands.
Mm-hmm.
So something like that. Good idea, good idea. Okay, let's check this out. So this is a ring that I just found in my little stash, and it's got a little scratch right there. See that? There's a couple of scratches here. So that's the perfect case, and maybe this happened when you created the ring or afterwards, but that's a perfect case for running through all of these different grits. I'm a little close here, so I'm going to pull it back out.
Kim, yes, you can use a Dremel. She had asked if you could use a Dremel.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dremel's great. Dremel works really well because it's easy to hold in your hand as opposed to like a gigantic drill. I mean, these are made for this type of thing, so it's really, really easy to hold in your hand. Plus, it's got a really strong motor. Okay, so I'm going to work on this ring, and I'm going to work through the different grits. And remember, yellow's the harshest. So let's see what this does. At the same time, I'll just grab a blank and polish with yellow so you can see what it does to the metal. Let's do that first. Let's grab okay, I've got this nickel Christmas tree.
Do you have to wear a dust mask was a question we got too.
It doesn't kick off dust. These are little rubber bristles impregnated with the microabrasive compound. So it doesn't kick off dust, but if you're worried about, I mean, there's no harm in using a dust mask. If you're really sensitive or you're worried about slight dust, then sure, go for it.
Can you
So
just give us a quick overview, I'm sorry, of what metal you're using right
This is nickel,
Okay.
and these polish any metal that, you know, jewelry metal is not something crazy hard. This is nickel I just grabbed from the back. I think it has a nick on it, which is why it was in the drawer. And I just want to show, before I get into the ring, what this looks like, this texture.
Oh.
So this is the harshest. So this is really matte or satin. That's what I would call it. I think it's
kinda
beautiful.
like it.
I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's pretty.
I love it. And then you don't have to worry about tiny little scratches that happen anyway. So, you know, if this was the case, I would maybe stamp, if you're doing stamped jewelry, I would stamp my piece, put the black in, remove the black and polish with this guy, and then you've done it all in one step. In the case of this ring, another thing is these won't hurt you. If I turn this on and I kind of hit my finger, that doesn't hurt. I mean, if I did all day, it probably wouldn't be awesome, but it's not bothering me. All right, so in the case of this ring, I am going to polish the outside, and you can see how shiny it is now. It's going to matte it up quite a bit. And what I'm trying to do is pull the metal back to the depth of that light scratch, which you can already see that the scratch is almost gone. Now you need to do this on the entire ring. For the purpose of this demo, I'm just going to do this section because I don't want to spend the whole time. But I do want to point out the other nice thing about these is getting into little grooves, like you can go right into the middle.
I love that.
Yeah. Okay, so one last little go here with the yellow. Awesome. Oop, there's an airplane. We live really close to a small airport. They land like, we can watch them land. The microphone really picks it up. Okay, now I'm going to, oh, you know what? I skipped white. White's actually the harshest. But it's okay, it's looking okay with yellow, so that's fine. I'm gonna skip that. Now I'm gonna load the red. So the kit comes with, I think 4 mandrels. We didn't give you 7. There are 7 different grits in there because sometimes people don't use them all. They mainly use this one or that one. If you want though, I would get, if you're lazy like me, I like having them already loaded. So I think the mandrels are like $1, right? Pick up a couple extra ones. Okay, where was I? So here's the spot I'm working on. Those are right there. There's a dent in there, that's different. There was like a scratch before, and that's kind of what we're working on. The dent was probably, now to get a dent out, that would take quite a bit of metal to remove back to that, so I'm not working on that. Okay, so you can see how I'm now on red, we do blue, pink, peach, and you really do have to go all the way through. I'm not gonna spend the time right now because you can already see the difference it's made. Let me try to get it a little closer here. I don't know if it'll want to focus on that.
Do you have to grip the flex shaft pretty, like how does it slip easily is what a question we're getting.
The tool?
Yes.
No,
Karen.
it's really easy to, you get used to it. People grip it different ways. It depends on if you want to like grind like this or get more at it like that. But you'll definitely get used to it. So what I can see, and I don't know if you guys can see it there on the camera really well, but that scratch that ran perpendicular to the base of this ring is now gone. So basically what you're doing is you're bringing the metal, like I said, back to the depth of that scratch. And then with each one of these, you're adding the, you know, the texture lines of that grit. So the first grit's a little harsh, and you'll see the texture lines. The next grit is less harsh, it'll bring it to that texture line. So as you go through, and you finally get to this, you'll have a nice, shiny finish. And you can hit it with a Pro Polish pad or what have you. Now, this guy that we showed before, that was with the yellow that gave it that satin look. Let's see what it looks like if we were to just hit it with like peach. So peach is the second to the lightest, and it's one that I use a lot as just a final touch-up. Even if I'm not like removing a scratch, like let's say this piece here that we did the blue on earlier, I might hit it with the peach. Let's go ahead and do that now.
Oh, I had misunderstood Karen too. She was wondering if you have to have a good grip on the piece of metal. like the ring or the blank, is it
For sure.
You do have to have a pretty heavy grip.
Yeah, otherwise, I mean, I'm pinching pretty hard, but this isn't going to grab it. It flings off the edge like you saw. It's not going to grab it and throw it, but that's why you might consider holding it in a ring clamp if you're having trouble with that.
That makes sense.
I have a question. Here.
Yes, another question.
Yes, would you use this in place of tumbling, or when would this type of technique come in place? Like one versus the
Tumbling
other?
would be the final finish. If
So
you
you would
really
still
wanted
tumble.
to be official here, I would, and you had some scratched up piece that you just, soldered a bezel on or whatever, and you're finishing it up, you would go through the grits, and the tumble would be the final step.
Okay.
It's not necessarily in place of tumbling because it kind of depends on exactly what you're asking. Why you're tumbling. Are you tumbling just to shine? Are you tumbling to deburr? Are you, that sort of
Work hard
thing.
in or something.
Yeah, exactly.
And how do you know when to change out when to move on to the next radial?
Well, these guys, these green ones, are almost done. I wouldn't rule them out quite yet. I just took them off because I needed their mandrel. It's basically when they start to look like this and they stop working.
Okay.
So use them, and I can't give you a definite time frame on that because it all depends on how much you're doing. What size your piece? Are you doing it every day? So you just have to judge by looking at the radials. So back to this piece, I hit it with the peach. It's kind of hard for you guys to see, but it's a little shinier. I'm trying to not
can
get
see
the
it.
light on there. There we go. It's a little shinier on this side where I hit it with the peach than this side. Let's look at what it does to just a plain blank. So this had nothing done to it, where here we hit it with, I think we had the yellow on.
Can you use this method with CNC?
Can you use this? Yeah, we can
Yeah.
use that with PMC. You can use it.
Because PMC is basically, a fine silver. It's a metal. So this gave it a nice shine. It removed, what you're seeing, the drastic difference there is just the tarnish. And of course, anything's going to move the tarnish. So let me hit it first with the Pro Polish Pad, and then you can see it better. Okay, see, that was just tarnish where you saw the extreme difference. But you can see, like, right here, it's got a little more texture than out here, but see how regular it is? So when I received this blank, sometimes they have little scratches on that, it's a raw metal. You guys are used to that. Pro Polish or fine steel wool takes care of it, but these finer grit ones will as well. Let's see, what else do I have? This is a piece that I soldered last week, and I haven't done anything to it. It's a little rough, so I would probably actually start on this one with the peach, so it's already loaded on here. Now I go in lines, but again, you can do small circles. The piece is getting kind of hot in my hand.
That's where this probably is great when you have solderables, being able to get in the little nooks and crannies.
Right. Like in this case, if you really wanted to polish out that oxidation in there, sometimes that's hard to do. I like it, but see the dark rim around the L? That's another piece we soldered, not last week, week before. You can get in with like the edgier Pro Polish Pad, but these guys, I don't know if the peach will do it, but let's give it a try. You can really, I'm hitting it at angles so my bristles push into that spot. You see it got it out.
It very quickly it did.
Yeah. Because it can reach in there.
That was impressive.
I actually like the shadow, but
I do too, but
It's
this
gone
is
now.
pretty cool. Yeah.
all right. Before we go back to the front shot, what do you think, guys? Anyone have any questions? This is what the kit looks like. We also sell them individually, so you can buy just the pink or just the peach. I mean, honestly, I buy a lot of the peach and pink and green because I mainly am using those to polish at like a final polish or a little touch-up like we just did with this L. If you needed to really power through or you loved this texture, which I do, you could get the harsher ones.
I do too. I like that because then you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
up
scratching
everything.
away. I like the way it feels too. And yeah, it's great for stamping to have something different. So the shiny, it's going to get fingerprints, all that kind of stuff. See, I really did pull my hair back. I wasn't lying. And I did have my other glasses on. I just put these on. Yeah, it works really well. And the final polishing tips. So again, go to Joe's class because he does a workflow on a ring where he finishes soldering and all that. And he's like, okay, here's what I do next. and he pulls out some radial discs, he pulls out some of the silicon discs and the silicon points, and it's really interesting. And again, as always, that class is free, just click and play. I really do think this is the most like unused or unnoticed tool. I mean, we sell them really well, but it just solves so many problems. And they're not cheap, but they're not super expensive, and you know how fast you go through pro polish pads. So depending what you need them for, they might be a way to save some money and definitely save some time.
And your hands.
And
Like,
save
all
your
that-
hands.
Yeah,
That's
that's hard,
true.
all that pinching, and yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the thing with the Dremel, absolutely. But the Dremel that I have, the chuck hole, it came with a collet for the Dremel that held a smaller bit, so smaller than 3/32, and that's the size of the shank. So all you have to do, if that's the case, is in the Dremel section for a couple bucks, they have different collets that are a little bit bigger. So you have to make sure that the collet will hold 3/32. It likely will. It's a really, really basic size. But if not, all of those hardware stores have, you know, Dremel sections with the little different collets in there that you can adjust. So really what you're looking for is a rotary tool. What I prefer is a tool that doesn't go from 0 to 60 in one, you know, like a drill. So you want to have a variable speed drill. And the Dremel that I have, which I can't find, I searched all day yesterday, it's in here somewhere. It's about this long, it charges from the bottom, and on the handle it has a speed dial that you adjust with your thumb. There's other ones that are more like a tiny little gun, you hold it different. They all work great for this. You just need something to turn the bits. Again, if you're gonna do more hardcore polishing or drilling and you need a lot more power behind it, you gotta step it up to a flex shaft. But all the polishing I do totally works on a Dremel. Any questions from you?
I can't think of any. You covered it all.
I covered it all. Well, in that case, we are gonna sign off and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.